Welcome back to Matter of Fact. Veterans like Jacob Fadley, whom we just profiled, are looking to science to find more concrete ways of diagnosing post-traumatic stress disorder. Right now, the process can feel a bit like a game of 20 questions, and that's because mental health professionals diagnose PTSD by examining responses to a 20-question list of subjective criteria. Questions like, have you felt irritable, or have you had outbursts of anger? Do you often feel jumpy or startle easily? All of this could change as researchers work to nail down a more concrete way of diagnosing PTSD, a blood test or an MRI. For Sergeant First Class Kelly Rodriguez, that test can't come soon enough.
In cadence. Exercise. 1, 2.
Kelly Rodriguez is a platoon sergeant with the 18th Airborne Corps at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. How many deployments have you done in your 20-plus years?
5.
What was your most traumatizing posting?
My last deployment.
In Afghanistan?
In Afghanistan, 2009 to 2010.
Kelly served as a medic, treating casualties from one of the bloodiest attacks on U.S. troops in Afghanistan, an experience that left deep emotional scars.
It's not just engaging in combat, it's seeing it. And when you have soldiers come in and they're literally holding their jaw because they just got hit in the face with a rocket, or an NCO came in and he's holding his arm.
After returning home, Kelly suspected she might have post-traumatic stress disorder, but she practically had to beg for a diagnosis.
It came down to screen me, find out if it is PTS, great. If it's not, great. One way or the other, I need something besides you have anxiety and you're depressed. Well, you know, so does half of America.
Yeah, we're really living in the dark ages of post-traumatic stress diagnosis.
Dr. Sam McLean is a doctor of emergency medicine and anesthesiology at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He's one of a group of researchers around the country trying to nail down a more specific diagnosis of PTSD.
We hope to advance the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress by assessing what's going on in the brain, not simply a symptom checklist, getting at the actual biology that's underlying those symptoms.
Researchers at the University of North Carolina are decoding blood samples taken from recent trauma victims at civilian emergency rooms. They're sequencing the genetic material, RNA, DNA, and other types of molecules to identify biological markers for PTSD.
Close your eyes.
Dr. Tanya Jovanovic at Emory University in Atlanta is experimenting with the STARTLE test based on evidence that people with PTSD are easily startled even when there is no threat.
What we're capturing really is that fear response. And one of the things that we see about PTSD is that people can't control that fear.
To find out how PTSD physically changes the brain, researchers at the Veterans Affairs Health Facility just outside of Boston are using MRIs to look at brain structure and volume, as well as connectivity, to see how different areas of the brain talk to each other. The Veterans Administration is optimistic the work will pay off. David Shulkin is secretary of the VA. Do you think there'll be a day when those diagnostic techniques are not a 20-part questionnaire done by a provider to someone in the military services, but instead a blood test or something more tangible?
I think that we are absolutely moving in that direction quickly, and I think that we are making good progress in improving the sensitivity and specificity of our ability to diagnose things.
Those advances can't happen soon enough for Kelly's family. Her husband, Michael, an Army vet, also suffers from PTSD. He, too, had trouble getting the right diagnosis. Will someone who's entering the military 10 years from now have a completely different experience, do you think, than you both had?
I hope there is. That would be fantastic.
Because at the end of the day, you know, if there's something going on with them, they want to know what it is.